Folks, today you are going to learn a huge mistake that so many preppers are making, and you're going to learn this so that you don't make the same mistake yourself. And the old saying, a bird in the hand is worth two birds in the bush, has everything to do with this. So let's jump right into this.
Freedom seats for everyone! That's just fun as can be.
Hey, really quick, this video is part of a collaboration done by numerous different YouTube prepper channels that is doing a video every day of the month of September, since September is National Preparedness Month. And I will put a link down below so you can check that playlist out. Now let's get on with this video. Hey, welcome to my bug out location here. It's nothing big and fancy, but it is mine. And I still got a lot of work I got to do on this place, but it is slowly and surely coming along. So folks, as a long-term hardcore prepper, and with having had this channel for several years, I still continue to hear preppers talk about how they are going to hunt for their hunt wild game after SHTF and forage for wild edibles to feed them once the dark times come. And folks, you and I as real preppers, we know what a bad idea that is. Now I have to admit, for years I have been wrong about something. For years I thought that the old saying of a bird in the hand is worth two birds in the bush, I always thought that that meant that something that you physically have is better than something that you hope to acquire down the road. Basically, what I thought the saying meant was the man that has a bird in his hand will actually eat that night, while the guy that is hoping to catch two birds that's still flying free in the trees may not. But I guess that saying is actually to tell you to be content with what you do have instead of what you don't have. But either way, that saying is true, or the fact that what you have in your hands, what you possess, is much better to have than to hope you get something down the road. If you can possess something now, that is much better insurance than something that you hope to acquire in the future. So if you are a prepper, having food supplies and other supplies and actually having skills and practicing those skills and stuff like that, you will be much better off as a prepper after SHTF than those that plan to hunt wild game and to forage for wild edibles after SHTF. Folks, I have said this in other videos and I will say it again. When the Great Depression hit over 100 years ago, when the Great Depression hit, wild game was in many areas was hunted out to almost extinction. People quickly realized they couldn't go out and shoot rabbits and deer and stuff like that. People went hungry. And we have almost 3 times the amount of people on this planet now. If my numbers are right, we have almost 3 times the amount of people that we have now on this planet than what we did back in the Great Depression days. So if wild game became really scarce during the Great Depression with 1/3 of the amount of people back then, can you imagine how bad it will be if we have another Great Depression? Because there's too many people out there that have that mindset of when food gets scarce in the grocery stores, I'm going to go out and hunt my food. When everybody has that mindset, your food is going to disappear. And folks, you also have to realize that most wild edibles out there that some preppers hope to forage for, most wild edibles out there where they do give you some nutrients and stuff like that, they're not going to be enough calories to actually keep you alive. And folks, I've also heard of other preppers talk about how they will walk their neighborhood and walk their local parks to locate food-bearing trees and other fruit-bearing plants and stuff like that, stuff that they can forage for and eat after SHTF. And my caution against that, again, that is something that you hope you'll be able to do after SHTF. That will not be as good as having food in your possession, in your home after SHTF. You have to think is, If that is your plan, you are going out before SHTF and you're finding these places that produce food because of food-bearing trees or what have you. You have to think is how many other people are doing that. That area that you are walking, that is a shared, when you're walking in a park and stuff like that, that is a shared public area. There's a very high likelihood that other people, other preppers in your area are doing the same thing. And so if SHTF hits, you both can be competing for that same food. Also too, if you have a neighbor that has an apple tree or pear trees or whatever other kind of food-bearing trees, I've heard preppers say that, you know, they've found these, they've made friends with those neighbors, and their hopes is that after SHTF that these neighbors will share some of that food from those trees with them in exchange for bartering, whatever, just whatever. And my caution on that is when things get tough, when grocery stores start going bare and people start getting desperate and hungry, what makes you think that that neighbor is now going to share that food with you? No matter what you have to offer in exchange, unless it's food that you can offer in exchange, what makes you think that neighbor is going to share that food with you instead of their children or their parents or their immediate loved ones? You just have to stop and think. If you have an apple tree and SHTF is hit and people are going hungry and people are getting desperate, if you have an apple tree, and are you going to give your spare apples to a neighbor that you know a little bit, or are you going to give your spare apples to your children or to your grandchildren or to your parents or whatever immediate loved ones that you have? Now, you may be one of those people that totally hate your family, and you may be perfectly willing to let your family starve to death and feed a neighbor instead. But we have to accept what the probabilities are, and the probability is that most people will feed their family before they feed a neighbor or somebody else. So again, having your own fruit trees and having your own food stockpiled and put back is much better to have in your possession than hoping that you'll get it from someone else or somewhere else. Now, of course, this goes without saying, there is nothing wrong, and it's a good thing to learn how to forage for wild edibles and learn how to hunt game and stuff like that. I am not saying not to develop those skills. What I am saying, though, is that it's better to have food stockpiles and have stuff in your possession than to hope you'll get the stuff after SHTF. And you know, a good little example is when COVID first hit, when all the uncertainty was happening, when people started panic buying and you started seeing grocery store shelves start going bare in certain places, that gave me no concern at all, because I knew in my possession, I have it, enough food, enough long-term storage food to feed my family for almost 3,000 calories per day per family member for a little bit over a year. And what you're seeing here is video footage of some of the long-term food storage that I have put back for my family. And I'm not trying to brag here on this. All I'm doing is just simply pointing out that having this in my possession gave me and my family a lot of reassurance when at that very beginning we just didn't know how bad this was going to get, how bad the panic was going to cause hardships in our lives. Now folks, if you are one of those preppers who don't have any food put back or any real amount of food put back, and your plan is to go out and hunt wild game and to forage for wild edibles after SHTF, again, if that is your plan, you are almost certainly setting yourself up to be a marauder after SHTF does hit, because my belief is that game will get hunted out and wild edibles won't actually keep your stomach full, that you will get desperate just like everybody else will. So my suggestion to you, if you don't have any real amount of food already put back, my suggestion to you is that you go out to the grocery store now and at minimum get yourself a couple of cases of ramen noodles. Now, I already know there's going to be people that's going to be typing, no, you don't get ramen noodles, that's the worst thing to get. Folks, if you have zero amount of food and you need to get some bulk food now and you don't have much money, something like ramen noodles is at least dirt cheap, where you can get a couple cases of them, something to at least keep you alive for a couple of weeks for next to nothing. Basically, if SHTF was to hit tomorrow and all grocery stores got wiped out tomorrow, you would at least have a couple of weeks worth of food at your house, boom, right now for next to nothing. And then after you've bought that couple of cases of ramen noodles, then the next paycheck that you have, go out and buy one 25-pound or 150-pound bag of rice. And then on the next paycheck that you get, or the next time you get money, then you buy 50 pounds of beans. And then with each future payday, then you just get $25 worth of pasta, and then the next payday, $25 worth of oats, etc., until you actually have some food put back. So something else that I will see preppers do is overestimate the amount of food that they do actually have. They will count cans, counting each can as a meal, when that can may not have enough calories in there to actually keep you going. Or they go by number of servings, not realizing that each serving size, again, is not enough calories to actually keep you fed. So the best thing to do is to inventory the food that you have and to do a total calorie count to figure out how much food you actually do have. Now, I do want to clarify this really fast. While I choose to have a little bit over a year's worth of food for my family, please know that I am not coming down on you or thinking less of you if you choose to not have a year's worth of food for your family. While I believe that there are going to be long-term hard times coming down the road, I understand that there are other preppers out there that don't prepare, that don't believe, that don't have concern for long-term hard times. I understand that there are a lot of preppers out there that prepare for power outages, for natural disasters and stuff that would last for a couple weeks or a couple months. So if you don't choose to have a year's worth of food or more for your family, please know that I am not looking down at you. So again, I am a firm believer that having food and supplies in your possession is much better than hoping you can get those food and supplies after SHTF. So why don't you do me a favor and comment down below with your thoughts on this subject. And like I said at the beginning, today's video is part of a collaboration of a playlist done by several different YouTube prepper channels. So to learn what you should prep versus what you should grow by one of my favorite YouTube channels, Ethical Preparedness, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to see that. And then to learn about Freeze Dry Wholesalers by Southwest Prepper Group, then click on this playlist that should be appearing now so you can watch that when it gets released on tomorrow's day on September 25th, 2021.